It's a bright Saturday morning, the 28th day of March 2026. Matter of fact, last Saturday of the month. And yes, it's the Capital Gang, your ultimate social political talk show, always coming up at the end of the week. In the studio, a couple of gangsters already assembled and ready to roll away. My name is Simon Kasiate, standing in for the perennial host of the program, Oscar Semwe Yamsuke, who tells me he's at a wedding and unable to be with us today. I only had to be sure he's not the groom, and he's confirmed that he isn't the groom, and so we can say enjoy the wedding as a guest. But we have a host of conversations to delve into, and some look into the issues of the day as pertains to our local circumstances, more so our workers who this week wake up to news that of the little they are paid and highly taxed, more is yet to be taken by the taxman. And so we are looking at the new proposals by the Uganda Revenue Authority to raise the threshold for pay as you earn, and are asking ourselves, is this progressive, regressive, or it's going to further sink people under the tax radar? We'll be looking at how long the fuel reserves shall last us, considering that the world is facing a fuel shortage as a result of the Iran war, or the war against Iran by everybody knows who, and the circumstances arising from such, which is increased fuel prices. The Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Honorable Ruth Nankabirwa, came out this week telling the nation that we have about 21 days left of diesel and less than that of gasoline, petrol. But she also reassured the nation that there are supplies on the high seas arriving. Question is, will they come just in time, or are we headed for a disaster in that regard? So we'll be having that as a conversation. But even relatedly, we'll be looking at the Iran war. We're taking updates. We're looking at the fuel crisis, for example, not just around the world, but close by in South Africa, which portends huge troubles for us here. And in the studio to make sense of these conversations, the regular gangsters already sitting. I'll be introducing them, but first, the good manners dictate that we start with a guest. And so we have none other than Richard Bigirwa, the Secretary General of the National Organization of Trade Unions of Uganda. Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang, sir.
Good morning, listeners.
And well, I can see you're only interested in saying good morning to the listeners and not myself. Mr. Bigirwa.
Thank you for hosting us this morning.
The Capital Gang is normally not very friendly for those who don't come when they are friendly, considering that we as workers keep looking at NOTU, which is the National Organization of Trade Unions, even though we are not unionized, but we always look at you as the vanguard of support for whatever bedevils us as workers. And for the most part,
we represent everybody, because when we do policy influence, we influence for all of you, whether unionized or non-unionized. Thank you.
Very good. And I can tell you that you have a listenership of over 70% that is actually of workers. The rest could be yet to become workers, and others, the small majority, are retired workers. Yes, we've got the Senior Presidential Advisor for Political Affairs, and we're talking about none other than the President of the Republic of Uganda, not any other president, Mr. Moses Byarruhanga. Good morning. Welcome to the program. It's been a while.
Good morning. Moderator today, Mr. Kasiate.
Thank you.
My colleagues in the studio and our listeners out there.
I can see you took cue from my compliments to Mr. Bigirwa and greeted me in a very special category. I appreciate. And yes, Honorable Dickson Kateshumbwa, also a regular gangster on the program, fresh out of a successful election, and of course concluding in style his current term and waiting to be sworn in sometime in May. We already saw the program of swearing in, but we also continue to see you doing incredible work. We did see you in the committee, which interestingly was being faced by officials from the Uganda Revenue Authority, where you used to work as no less a commissioner and incoming at the same time. So he has he has got the benefit of incumbency that he plays with. Welcome to the program, Dixon.
Thank you very much, Simon, and good morning, listeners and the colleagues who are here.
Yeah, people have not seen for a long time since, my brother here, Moses, and I'm happy to be back on Gang.
Well, Honorable Kateshumba would be extremely insightful in this conversation around the proposals by the Uganda Revenue Authority. Not so much because he works there currently, he doesn't, but at least he was there before and he possibly has an appreciation of how they come around with these proposals. We are told that these proposals seek to provide relief to low-income earners while significantly increasing the burden on high-income earners. That seems to be the general appreciation. But even the low-income earners, who it is said the proposals are going to provide relief, find them unfair. Now, we don't know what that means. But maybe to give it perspective, I'll turn to you, Dixon. Maybe just paint for us a picture. What is this pageant for Uganda Revenue Authority to continue increasing the weight of the burden of taxes on the already overburdened taxpayer, as opposed to spreading out their wings and widening the tax base, as it were? Because we know that a huge population of Ugandan workers are out of the tax radar and for the most part just worlds away earning their money net of taxes, while those who are in formal employment, whose records can be accessed, who are paid through banking systems, who are paid through bona fide mobile platforms, continue to bear the brunt of an increased taxation regime directly on their earnings. That's not to mention the other taxes they suffer with regard to the consumables and other things related to excise duty and the things of that nature. Just paint for us a picture, Dixon.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to make a correction because you indicate that why does URA continue to raise taxes? The mandate of URA, it is not the mandate of URA to actually introduce new taxes. It is the mandate of the Minister of Finance. And so I would like to state clearly that the tax measures are primarily a mandate of government through the Ministry of Finance. Of course, they work with URA. So that one is I just wanted to make that clear. But the issue you have raised, you've talked about the tax burden. Every year, of course, tax measures are proposed and brought to Parliament. Next week, I think on Wednesday, we expect the government formally lay the tax proposals on the floor of Parliament, and then we will be able to discuss them as a committee and also hear out the public, because we have to invite the public, the stakeholders, to listen in. But for this particular year, what I noticed is that I think while the process was going on, there was a leakage of some of the draft measures. And so the public started engaging in discussions prematurely, sometimes raising anxiety where it's not necessary. But yesterday we had the NRM Parliamentary Caucus at State House in Entebbe, and we got a brief on the budget priorities and a sneak peek into some of the measures that will be brought. So a lot of discussions that have taken place in the last 1 week was largely based on a leaked draft. And so the anxiety created in public maybe was unnecessary. But ultimately, we expect these measures to be tabled and then they are explained. And some of these measures which have been brought are not properly understood, because when someone says that they are the low-income earners are being affected, one of the measures which definitely will come is the increase of pay-as-you-earn threshold from 235 to 335. So anybody who is employing anyone, someone like Moses here, I don't know what he must be employing so many people at his farm and many other businesses. If you are employing someone and you are paying him about 330,000, their income will go untaxed. So that is, those are low income earners. But even the one of the next band of 10% has also not changed. Of course, the high income earners, 10 million and above, will continue to pay at 40%. So when you look at one of the measures which is coming, pay as you earn, it is meant to provide relief for some of our low income earners. Two, there is another measure which we have been for the last 3 years, I think personally, and many other colleagues, we have been telling the Ministry of Finance they needed to bring it. And this is the increase of VAT threshold. Because the VAT threshold of 150 million a year has been bringing so many people in the VAT bracket and perhaps creating a big challenge of implementation and enforcement. And so I'm glad that one of the measures that government is introducing is to increase the threshold to 350 million a year. 250 million. And so that will also provide relief. So if you have a business, if you are a low business company that has a turnover of 250 million below, you don't have to register for VAT. And that is also a relief. So it's not entirely true that the measures are brought to increase the burden of low income earners. We have to look ultimately when the bill is laid before Parliament. We have to examine measure by measure and make sure that we test them against the known parameters, for which include, first of all, what is the ease of correction of any new measure. Is going to go beyond 3%, which is an international, standard? Is it going to grow the economy? Can it create socio-economic impact? And is it actually going to raise revenue, or it's going to be a headache that does not raise revenue? Finally, when you look at our budget, we are now looking at 84 trillion budget in the next financial year. And of course, our debt has gone up. It's still sustainable, but what it means is that the pressures require us as Ugandans to increase our tax base so that we can be able to sustain the demand that is put to government. So we cannot expect any other person to carry the burden other than us Ugandans. But when you look at our tax structure, we have about less than 6 million people on the tax register who are out of the many million Ugandans. So it is time for us now to look at where is the best, where is the room for expansion in terms of the tax base. And some of us believe that the government needs to put emphasis on indirect taxes, because that is where you can have a lot of catchment that even Simon's child, when they go to the supermarket and you buy Ribena for him or her, that consumption will generate VAT.
Yeah,
and so we have so many.
It will still be Simon paying, not the child.
Yes, but ultimately the consumer, as you have paid on her behalf because you have capacity to pay. So government has invested a lot of wealth funds in Ugandans, Myoga, PDM, and all sorts of, GROW. All this money has gone into the people to bring them into the money economy. I think now, Moses, we should be over 9 trillion that has been invested. This money is going direct into the people. What it means is that even if it generates a return on investment of 20%, it is money in people's pockets. Even if it's 10%, of course. Now, that, of course, allows someone to have some disposable income to be able to consume. Someone in Rukunjiri, maybe who never used to have a beer, but because he has done PDM and become successful, he can go to the bar and have a
They don't
beer.
have to wait to become successful, just to drink the PDM money immediately.
And even if they drink the PDM, government can get the tax. So it is money that creates money. And so these investments should be able to increase consumption arising out of increased disposable income, out of profitability from these investments. And then we should be able to have a wider coverage of indirect taxes.
Thank you, Honorable Katesh. I think that's quite very insightful. It sounds very heartwarming coming from you, but of course, in there, the devil is in the details. When you start saying, oh, the cry and hue that you heard from citizens in the last week has not been best. In fact, it was a matter of fact, a leaked document which is subject to rumors. Then we had an NRM parliamentary caucus in State House, and many of these concerns, we were guided. You haven't given us the details of the guidance, but I know that's a conversation that we'll eventually get to know, that what the government wants, it will always get anyway. But I'll turn to you, Richard Bijirwa, the Secretary General of the National Organization of Trade Unions of Uganda. You've heard what Honorable Kateshi has said. We know what is on the table. But what does the National Organization of Trade Unions of Uganda have to say about these measures or proposals to increase thresholds on certain demographics of earners or workers, and then create relief for those who earn 335,000 Ugandan shillings not to pay any tax, against the backdrop of the fact that you have been the loudest voice talking about a minimum wage and things of that nature?
Thank you, moderator, for hosting us this morning.
Let's restrict it to Simon. Moderator sounds
Thank
a
you,
little bit.
Simon. First of all, the current budget proposal, which is on the table, any country would love to have a good tax base, and therefore it is important that Ugandans pay tax. But among all those, the tax must be considerate. First and foremost, the pay-as-you-earn threshold, which is being proposed from 235 to rise to 355, is quite adequate. But I remember last year we had a meeting with the head of state, and as workers' representatives, we presented formally our request that we would have loved this pay as you earn to start from 500. Though we appreciate this is a stride, but our request was that it starts from 500 so that it considerably covers a large number of people who are disadvantaged. Especially, you have talked about minimum wage, where we have no minimum wage, and we shall take really a big relief if this could go up to 500. That was our proposal to the head of state when we met at State House in April. Secondly, I want you also to bear in mind that especially the civil servants, effective July, we are going to have a contributory pension fund. And this contributory pension fund means that 5%, the worker will have to contribute 5% and the government will contribute 5%. Given the burden which has been going on, it is a good thing that the pensioners will no longer walk up and down to Wandegear to look for their pension. But what does it mean to the tax? That means a certain percentage already. I know they have increased 25% for the arts teachers, but that means that already that component is off. So by and large, that the 25% we have been talking about, especially in salary disparities, which has been happening between the science teachers and the arts teachers, it is a stride. But what we would like to request that it would have been a little more so that they really catch up with the science teachers. And I believe that for us as workers, that contributory fund is good, but now it is going to eat into the increase they have just given they are proposing. So we believe that this is very important for the government to look into. And obviously, the fuel is an engine to every sector. And once you have this increase, and in absence of minimum wage, that means workers are going drastically to suffer, because the transport costs, the rent, whatever, all is going to go up because of this increase of fuel prices. So I would really request government that we have a deeper analysis into all these taxes for the benefit of the workers. Taxes are good for the country, but we would like to look to be more focused on what does a worker carry home at the end of the day. Thank you.
There is that other worker who earns 10 million plus. That worker doesn't seem to feature anywhere in your concerns, Mr. Bijirwa, do they? You suggested the minimum threshold below which the president should not tax, which is 500,000 shillings.
Yeah,
what
I know.
What about the upper limit?
Yeah, I know the biggest change has been between this threshold. The other, I think, has been a normal. This has been always been the practice. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I thank you. That's interesting to note. Also in the studio, we've been joined by 3 new members of the panel, 2 of them regular panelists and 1 a guest. Mr. John Walugembe of Enterprise Uganda. I keep asking myself what Enterprise Uganda does.
Small scale.
Small scale. Yeah. I had already now given him a promotion, but yes, the man of the small and medium, or should we say medium and small? I don't know the order, but certainly he looks into entrepreneurs who are operating small and medium enterprises, and seeing that for the most part, when direct taxes are being proposed, I think government finds these people of Mr. Walugembe a little bit below radar. They never find them to give them a direct tax, because many of them don't employ many people, and when they do, it's not on record. They run informally for the most part. Even NSF has been struggling to ensure that they are in the mix to get them to pay NSF for their workers, even those who have more than 5. But from where you sit as an entrepreneur, there are many other tax proposals beyond direct tax that possibly are a point of concern to you. Do you mind sharing, John?
Simon, thank you. First of all, I want to say that what you've just said is incorrect. 90% of businesses in Uganda are micro, small, and medium, and they're not necessarily informal. And you see, this is the problem that we have. And this thinking that MSMEs are informal, they're not paying tax, and so on. Yet, almost every business in Uganda falls into that category, apart from a few. We are talking
about direct tax.
No, I'm coming. No, Simon, relax. I'm just trying to clarify that, because I think it's extremely important. Now, on the issue of the taxes, I would say that from our standpoint, there are things that, there are taxes that we think, there are proposals that we think are important for us and are beneficial for our businesses, and then there are those that we think are concerning. On the issue of the VAT threshold, I would say this is a very good proposal. We had proposed that it's raised to 500 million or a billion, but we are glad that it's been raised to 250 million. It's a starting point.
Previously, it was how much? Just remind us.
It was 150 million. I've looked at the number of businesses that are registered for VAT. The bulk of them, 60-70% of them, are not contributing much. They're contributing about 3% to tax collection, and that's where most of the fraud is, misinvoicing, and so on. So I think it's in order that this threshold is raised, and I think the IFRIS issue we had last year came from this one, because you had people in the VAT bracket that are not supposed to be there. On the issue of the payee threshold being raised to 335,000, we believe that this is a good thing. It leaves people at the bottom of the earning ladder with extra income to spend. That said, there are some proposals, for instance, the increase of stamp duty on land transfers from 1.5 to 3%, the excise duty on cement, on tiles, on grout. We believe that if this kind of if I couple it with rental tax, I believe that this can have long term the impact of constraining the construction sector, which is one of the drivers in this economy. Excise duty on petrol, sugar, cooking oil has been increased moderately. Cooking oil by 200 shillings, sugar by 200 shillings, and cement by petrol and diesel, as I mentioned. These will have an impact on the lives in terms of cost of ordinary Ugandans. But having given them relief, because government by raising the VAT threshold has accepted to lose 96 billion shillings, so they must raise it from somewhere. So I think our argument is that having given us the threshold raise, then this is tough for ordinary Ugandans, but it can be compensated by that. Then the issue of capital gains tax on non-business assets, 5%. I believe this is not very... Capital gains should be on business assets. Yeah? Capital gains shouldn't be on non-business assets. I have my asset, selling it, it's not my business, so why are you interested in that? So I think for us that's very logical. I know government wants to raise money, but you must... Eh? It has what?
It has gained.
It has gained.
Yes.
Okay. No, but government should... Okay. No, that's okay. And then on the issue of income and in foreign jurisdictions, believe that, as a country, we depend a lot on remittances and so on. So this can also have an impact. If Uganda starts because I know the US has something of this sort. So Uganda is a developing country that depends on remittances and so on. We have to be very careful as we roll out this measure, because I believe that it might discourage long term. You might start something and then long term it creates a bit of an issue. My colleague Katesh is saying that we need to increase the proportion of indirect taxes. I mean, they're already 65% anyway of our...
But maybe enhance efficiency.
Yeah, I agree with you. We need to enhance, we need to expand...
being able to go to make sure that in Bujiri, whoever is consuming... we have a capacity to collect that VAT.
Maybe one thing I need to mention is that when we talk about expanding the tax base, we also need to be careful. Where are we likely to collect money from? Simon talked about informal businesses. I believe that as we develop, we need to accommodate informal businesses. There is now a campaign called something called Trade Order, which is being pushed. All these small businesses are being kicked off road reserves and so on and so forth. This is a challenge because these small businesses are points of consumption. If 65% of your tax is indirect and they are not working, it's going to hit you in the end. So
you traders, you people in businesses were already want them on the road.
Exactly.
No, we didn't say that. No, those are a few. You see, this is the point. No. Whoever has been pushing that argument is misguided. You see, these hawkers and so on are not the importers. They are part of the trade value chain. So they help to distribute the distribution mechanism. The issue is, I've gone downtown, but policy shouldn't seek to promote the interests of a few. Policy should look to support everybody. So small businesses, government should invest in workspaces to ensure that they are operating from designated workplaces. They receive training, they receive low-cost financing. But this issue of looking at them as being engaged in illegal activities is wrong. I've been in Mayuge this week. They are now saying each boat must have 3 people or something like that. People, the whole of the Musita place is disorganized. I mean, this is something we need to look at and discuss as a country. Yes, we want to expand the tax base, but how? This trade order is important, but it should not interfere with enterprise. And finally, a tax regime should be transparent. and Katesh was saying these proposals were leaked. There's no need for leaking. After we did the Public Finance Management Act of 2015, Uganda should be in the know. Why should you say Minister of Finance has some proposals that they introduced to Cabinet? Everyone should know what is being proposed and discuss them at
It was
will.
still under discussion. So
But Uganda should be part of that discussion. So a tax base should be elastic, should be able to accommodate changes, inflationary increases and so on. It should be convenient and it should be broad-based. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John Walugembe, for that insight and for making right what you considered not to be correct. We hear you. How about the views of others around the table? Let me start with Honorable Abdu Katuntu. You are listening very keenly. I know that you have been a great advocate of widening the tax base and not unfairly taxing the few. I do not know whether that position has since changed, but you may wish to share with us your thoughts around the proposed taxation measures.
I'm not an expert on the scriptures, but I think even the Bible says the taxman is mentioned. The Bible mentions the taxman.
And not in very glorious terms.
Very, very complimentary terms. So
You can say that again and continue looking at Katesh.
yes, sometimes the taxman is caught between a rock and a hard place. In the sense that you need the money to actually offer service to the people. But that money must be good from the people themselves. There is no tax which is going to be welcome, flowers, by any taxpayer. So everywhere you go, there will be a complaint. So whether you are widening the tax base, they say now they have come for us. Can you imagine they should have remained with the yellow hangers, but now they have come to Walugembe and so on. So we need to be conscious of that. There are many countries in the world which have got a very harsh taxation regime. Take for example the Nordic countries, Denmark and all those ones. However, how do they utilize their taxes? Because that's the most critical in my view. If all these taxes being collected was properly utilized for the service delivery, then we will have very, very few complaints sometimes. But when Walugembe and his people, the business people, wake up in the morning, they are taxed, then the consumers of their products are also taxed because the prices go up. Then they go on these potholes, the school system is poor, the medical sector is a problem. Then they start complaining about the taxes and so on. Matters are not helped much by the political class. My brother Katesh, you say, taxation, yes, not URA. True. Taxation is actually not URA. URA is purely tax collector. And it's not even finance. At the end of the day, the people themselves, through their representatives, are the ones who impose the tax. Because the Constitution says you cannot impose the tax except with an act of Parliament. So members of Parliament are the ones who impose the tax. Let's get that clearly. Don't look to anybody else. If they rejected the tax, it will not pass. So don't look to URA. Yes, URA, they can be together with finance, make proposals, but the imposition of a tax is purely members of Parliament.
But Honorable, the public might take it differently. The proposals come from government, and Parliament does not generate tax proposals on its own.
Government. Parliament is part of
Parliament
government.
generate anything on its own except the private members' bill?
No.
These are just proposals.
Yes,
And you can reject them, can't you?
of course.
You can vary them. So at the end of the day, the responsibility is the people themselves.
Once it comes to Parliament,
Yes.
you are responsible.
You are responsible. And don't run away from it, Katesh. Because you see, we need to talk straight. Sometimes we are looking at these URA fellows and we are harassing them. Oh, they are raising taxes. They have nothing to do with it, except they make proposals to their mother Ministry of Finance, and then Finance brings it to what? To Parliament, actually to a committee where
Katesh this.
Katesh sits first before it goes to the floor of the House. So yes, we have a problem, and because I wanted to have these general issues sorted out, then the demands on the public till by the public. The country, every time people are asking for this, including those so-called people with wealth,
Yes.
they're also asking for money from government. The ones below, you need just to go to the villages, up country, and so on. Everybody is asking for money, including journalists. The other day, we had a problem during
Including
COVID.
what?
Journalists, even media owners, they also were asking for money from government during COVID. So where do you expect this government to get this money in the first place? It has from the people themselves. So that is the sort of rock and the hard place government finds itself. Now we look at specifically the taxes. One, to me, I'm really a lover of indirect tax. If we can even raise from the current, it's around 65% to 80% is not a problem. If you are a person like Moses Vyaruhanga who wants to drive a Rolls Royce,
Phantom.
yeah, is it called what?
Is there a new
That
Rolls
one.
Royce Phantom?
So
You're about to see it.
You go, you pay the tax, and you go away smiling with your vehicle. If you are a person like Katesh who likes to smell well, he goes and buys a designer perfume. He goes to a shop, he has the money, he goes away smiling, including a soda.
True.
Somebody goes, if you are thirsty, you drink water. But if you feel like you need something which tastes sweet, you go for a soda, you go away smiling. Other than this indirect tax, which people are really complaining about. Direct tax, which
Yes.
people are complaining about. So if we are to increase taxes, in my view, we should be examining more about indirect taxes. That's why I don't agree with the wall here when he's talking about excise duty on, for example, sugar. On fuel and so
Cooking
on.
oil.
Yeah, because sugar, I think the proposal is around 200 shillings. Yes, 200 shillings. The only thing, yes, the 200 shilling, but by the time it goes to the consumer, it might be 300-400 shillings and so on. But that is a better tax than saying, okay, I'm going for this direct taxation and so on. I hope my brother Katesh, in the committee, you need to examine some of these taxes in detail. Unfortunately, Simon, I've seen it in this short time I've been in Parliament.
Sure.
Did you say short?
Yes.
Wait a minute. When did these words change meaning? I think these words
This is
since changed
people
meaning
with-
while I was away. But Honorable Katuntu, proceed.
You can see the young
Abdul Katuntu, short-serving member of Parliament, has done 6 terms or 5 years each.
You see, when we are talking about innovation, the real decision makers are not innovative at all. They are only looking at the expenditure side. All of them are these MPs. None will ever look at how do we raise this money.
Yeah.
None. Everybody stands up, in my place, this hospital, in my place, this road, this bridge, our women want this, youth livelihood. None. There are very, very few of us who you guys, okay, how do we raise this money? And that's the biggest challenge of this parliament. I'm not talking about this but Parliament of the Republic.
When you started asking those questions, you see how it ended for you. So
Yeah, because
no one wants to end.
no
that way.
one wants to talk about the real hard question. Where are we going to get this money? Now, Katesh is talking, this budget is 74
84
trillion. In this economy, where are you going to raise the 84 trillion? For heaven's sake, where?
You've preempted the question I was going to put to Mr. Vyaruhanga.
These are the real hard questions. And yet, when you look at their expenditure, I'm sure it is 90 trillion. When you look at the proposals, guys wanting this bridge, this road, and so on, it could even go up to 100 trillion plus.
Unfunded.
They call it unfunded what?
Priority.
So
And then there will be supplementary questions and
the
demands.
supplementary is not a problem because that one presupposes there is some money which has come.
Okay.
Yes, and it has to be spent. But to me, I
you
think
can
members of
imagine.
Parliament, I don't know, when we talk about those things, people don't think you are making a point. So where are we going to get to this money? They will look at you and say, where is this one coming from? They just want, okay, Can we reduce the taxes on this? Teachers should have more. All MPs, when they stand up on the floor, colleagues, they are talking about we need more. Now, my brother here,
Mr.
Bijirwa, is talking about salaries of this, salary coming up, and so on. Where is this money coming from?
Now that you've asked that question, I hope let's quickly turn it to
Simon,
Moses
in
and
fact-
put it to him and buttress it, even with more on the expense side of government, where we've seen, like Atesh did mention earlier on, all these interventions to bring even the lowest of the low into the money economy. Fair enough.
But Simon-
Moses, where are you going to fund all those flowery things that you intend to spend on, that we demand that you spend on, and that your manifesto also did promise to spend on? And we just elected you on a new mandate, on a new manifesto, promising a lot more money to be spent. But how shall you raise
Well,
it?
1 second, Simon. Look at all these presidential candidates when they are moving around looking for vote. All of them we are talking about spending.
Expenditure.
Oh, this one we're going to do this. Oh, this one we're going to do this. If you tell them, okay, you tell us how you are going to get that money to spend as you are promising, my friend. When we're in
fact,
school, we
as-
used to call it angas.
As Moses comes in, Simon, what the point that Abdul mentions, we even have to align the way we do the budgeting process, because we are going to process the budget estimates before we conclude the policy measures. So the whole parliamentarians, everybody will be saying, we need this, we need this, we need this. Then we come up with budget estimates approved. Then when we go to the taxation side, everybody says this tax must go down. So what happens at the end of the day? You have a demand, but you have not backed it with a measure.
It's and
Let's, listen to Moses
we are
before we go in for a
shortchanging,
break.
sometimes Ugandans, because you are there and you are not doing what you are supposed to be doing, and then we become populist. Say, this one, me, I talked about the teachers that we should give them more money. So, okay, now where is this money coming from?
Yes, Simon, I think
It's
Right.
now Moses. Sorry, Mr. Bijirwa.
Thank you, Simon. Well, I wanted to make some little clarifications. Mr. Walugembe was talking about when you are taxing income earned from abroad, it's not about remittances. It's like what the remittance says is somebody is sending $200 to their family to do this. That's not going to be taxed. But if Abdu has a business, a law firm in Kenya, and it earns income, and is transferring that income to Uganda, that will be taxed. That's what it means. You have a business abroad, you are Ugandan, running a business outside Uganda. And of course, the result has been taxed in that country, but when you're bringing the income in Uganda, that's what will
Also,
be
it's
taxed.
taxed at the point of bringing the income into Uganda.
Yeah.
If we have a double tax agreement, you do it.
Isn't that a double job?
The diasporans.
Well, you're bringing in income.
The
No,
diasporans.
but that's already been taxed.
Our law allows
Well,
worldwide
diasporans.
taxation.
The diasporans
No,
who are tax free.
it does. But the problem is it fair?
No, where if the other jurisdiction you already subjected to tax, then you offset if there is a double tax agreement.
So anyway,
There is a double,
so anyway, the point I wanted to
Abu, for us,
No,
just
no.
relax. You don't own law firms in Kenya.
what I wanted to clarify is that it's not about the remittances from abroad, from this they send here. Those are not going to be taxed. So then also, if you have, for instance, borrowed from, say, a bank in Kenya, when you are paying interest to that bank, the interest will be, that bank will pay some percentage as interest, as tax to Uganda. From the interest you are paying, if you are paying say 2 million interest a month or whatever period, that is also taxed. So they're not taxing you, your business here, but they're taxing somebody who's earning from something obtained in Uganda. Simon, you asked about, and also another clarification. Mr. Yuraya mentioned that the contributory pension system is starting in next financial year. When I had it, I clarified with some of the Minister of Finance. It is not starting next financial, probably in the other financial 27-28, not this 26-27. Now they're just proposals on how implementation policy issues, but not the actual beginning. So don't be worried about it for next financial year. It will be subject for this time next year discussion.
Interest, yes.
Oh, yeah.
He wants it even starting
yesterday.
In terms of taxation,
No,
it's a good
yeah.
thing, but
So
it will take some percentage.
So it's not for now. It's not for this July. It's for maybe the other July, if it succeeds. Now, Simon, back to your question. Yes, we have a lot to spend on, and I wish our economists were looking at. You see, when you're looking about the tax structure and the economy, look at PDM. We are spending slightly over $1 trillion annually on PDM. But PDM is revitalizing the economy in a very big way.
Is it?
Yes. You see, when you send out $1 trillion plus, and people are earning income, those who have gained, those have benefited from PDM, in two ways. One, you have the beneficiary in Kateshi's constituency who has received 1 million. This beneficiary has invested in poultry, has invested in other things that Abu doesn't talk about. Now, but when they invest in these investments, they employ people, 1 or 2. So you'll find that PDM now we're talking about, we have reached about 3.5 million households. If 2.5 million of those, each one has employed 2 people, we have employed 5 million people under PDM. And it comes back to the issue Wigra was raising about employment. Now, the immediate beneficiary I'm earning money, sometime 2023 I went to Luwero sub-county, and we invited all PDM beneficiaries in Luwero sub-county. At that time, there were about 1,200, and talked to them, had a discussion with them. Somebody was saying, me, from the million I got, from what I invested in, I now have 5 million, and so forth and so forth. So, now this money, they have earned it, they are also spending it on the consumption. They are buying more mabati, they are buying more cement, more this, more that. Now, as a result, if today you talk to manufacturers who are manufacturing items sold locally, they will tell you that their internal sales have gone up because the market has expanded. When we were working on a manifesto, I talked to Aga Sekalara Jr., who is the chairman Umar now. He said at the time, that was around when we talked about him, around August last year. And he said at that time, the utilization of the factories under UMA was about 56%. What does that mean? It means that was the market they could sell to. But if I'm sure you talk to him now, he will tell you that our capacity has gone up because they have more to sell to. The economy has expanded as a result of these measures we're talking about. I talked to somebody on Lato. I was asking him that you used to have issues with exporting milk to Kenya. What's happening now? He said, no. Our internal sales have gone up, so we are selling less to Kenya. We don't have. They still have some issues, but they said we are selling more in Uganda. And when I heard that, I talked to the other day. I took somebody in cement, the owner of Sotoro Cement. They said their cement sales have gone up. I've talked to roofings and other people in the steel industry. If it comes to the lower income earners buy, like iron sheets, their sales have gone up. Now, this shows you an expanding economy. So, the indirect taxes Abdul Karim is talking about are good. That your taxing goods are being bought, but by people whom you have helped the other way round. So you're not taxing the PDM beneficiary directly, but you are taxing the goods he's going to buy. So that way, you're going to raise the 84 trillion. Okay, some of it will borrow, but at least you're going to raise more money from your own economy, and with less issues of concern. And then for those who are the low cadre earners who are earning we have increased the threshold by 100,000 shillings. As Mr. was talking about here, that when they talked to the president, they wanted it increased to 500,000. It's progressive. You don't just jump at a go. It's progressive. Along the way, it will reach those levels. Mr. Walugembe, okay, many people are happy that the VAT threshold has been increased from 150 million to 250 million. Well, maybe the issue was on collection. This basically means that this person or Walugembe is representing, who doesn't want to be, would otherwise have passed on VAT to a consumer. But now they are happy that they are the one paying it. Because if you are going to Sura, the bag of cement from Toro Cement, it will have VAT, you will pay VAT. Ordinarily, you would have passed on to the consumer. But now you're going to retain it. So you are the one paying the VAT yourself. Fine, you are like the final consumer, but you have no claim to make. You're happy with it, fine. Everybody's happy, but you have paid it. But when you talk about the threshold,
is that an argument in good faith on your part?
No. What I'm saying,
terrible faith.
No.
The only advantage we have, Abdul, is that I barely know anyone in that bracket
that was
that
a
ever
big
claims their
argument.
VAT.
For me, is that they were not understanding it. That's what they wanted, and they went even on strike. But well, fine. But otherwise, you are denying Katesh, your final consumer, from paying VAT and say, let me pay for Katesh. But that's what you struggled for.
We have to conclude this, Moses. We have less than a minute.
But
fine, but no, you don't charge it, but you have paid it.
Moses, eventually they'll find a way of not paying it.
You see, Walugembe, you went to a factory, bought a bag of cement, which was at 10,000, but they included the VAT, which is 18.
You're VAT registered.
I'm VAT registered.
Yeah.
I buy from a VAT registered supplier.
Yes, and it passes on the 15%
to you, 18%.
18%
Yeah.
to you, because that's Moses'
The
argument.
input tax.
Yes. Then you are going to sell to Khartoum,
Who is not VAT
and
registered?
you are VAT registered. That means you can claim.
Yeah.
As output tax.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
However, if you are not, what happens?
You don't
But
claim.
you bought with a component of VAT.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But mind you, not everyone that I source from.
Fine, it's okay.
Not everyone that I buy from is VAT registered. And this is the argument.
So
In an informal economy like Uganda, that looks good on paper, but in practice, it's the SMEs that lose the most, especially the micro ones and the small ones who keep buying from non-VAT registered suppliers. That's the
anyway,
truth.
So
But that's what you were saying.
anyway, but for most of those SMEs are buying from VAT registered. Unless you're saying they are buying food from farmers, fine, those are very few. But the majority of it, anyway, we don't have to have a big argument there since that's what you wanted and we have achieved it. But so on the issue of so for me, I agree with Abdul that we need to discuss how do we expand the economy, how to raise the income. It's true, we always talk about expenditure. We don't always say, where is government investing? But Lydia, what's happening to you?
She's a member of parliament. She's receiving correspondences from the constituency. and
Well,
other places.
you are on radio now. So on the issue of I agree with Abdul that we need to expand the areas of where do we collect money from, and study them. Now I wanted to bring, when I was talking about the issue of employment, when these PDM, other activities, people get employed, the issue of the minimum wage comes in a sense that we know about it, but we have been concerned that the supply of labor in Uganda has been much higher than the demand for labor. So when some of these activities like PDM are taking off people or employing people, with time the demand for labor is going to either match or be higher than the supply for labor, and that's why prices of labor start going up little by little. That's one. Two, the other reasons why we have been not so categorical on minimum wage is what trying to bring down the cost of production, the drivers, the cost of power, the cost of transportation. Now, like in the power sector, when we took over Omeme through UDCL, the power costs were reduced by 14%. And when you look Uganda in comparison, with the region. The other day, I got some information from ERA, the engineer Wako, and the comparative figures. And you find that Uganda today, like for the extra large manufacturers, Uganda is at the lowest in the region. In fact, Kenya is almost 3 times the price or the Ugandans are paying in terms of the lowest category. The extra large in Uganda, there are about 52 companies of them. They consume 23% of the entire electricity generated. Now, by doing so, now in the next financial year, when we capitalize UEDCL further, we shall bring down the cost of power so that Uganda now becomes a hub for production. So, and it will be the lowest in the region.
Moses, I'm afraid we may have just put a hard stop to that one at that particular point, but we certainly have another 1 hour to go. We want to thank Star Cafe for giving us great coffee that has animated us through the whole conversation. Let's take a short break. When we return, it's more conversations on the Capital Gang. Welcome back. It's the Capital Gang, and yes, our conversations are ranging through the 3 topics that we are out to discuss, predominantly the proposals made by government on how to increase the taxation, and we have had an extensive conversation around the table regarding everyone's views to that mark. But then we're also looking at the increasing fuel prices vis-a-vis the announcement by the Minister of Energy about reducing days in as far as our reserves are concerned, and we are asking ourselves, are we able to sustain the reserves going, and shouldn't we see the pump price for especially petrol hitting the 6,000 mark by the second week of April if the situation in Iran remains as it is? All that is a conversation around the table. I'll start with you now, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, new Member of Parliament for Mbale City. Welcome to the program. Always an incredible and insightful gangster, and now we pass on the mantle to you.
Thank you, Simon, and good morning to my colleagues on the gang. I bring you greetings from Mbale City, and they've been listening to this gang for a long time. But on this issue of the tax base, I want to agree with my colleagues who are talking about the types of taxes and the level of creativity or innovation in terms of expanding the tax base. I was looking through the Uganda's government's innovation on specific wealth creation funds. I was analyzing, we have about 9 of them. The intention and the object of these wealth creation funds are meant to help Ugandans to grow, be in the money economy, and therefore have purchasing power. So if we can begin with that supervision and ensure that delivery is done, that's one way of making sure that we empower Ugandans to be part of the innovation or creativity of expanding the base, because you cannot tax people who have nothing, who have no purchasing power. So I think that whatever we do, this fund on the agriculture credit guarantee, which is about 600 billion, should go to the farmers, because ours is an agriculture economy, so that it grows people and empowers people to be able to contribute tax in terms of agriculture products on the market, but also value addition. We have other small businesses recovery fund. We have the Myoga, very popular Myoga. It's over 550 billion. We have the parish model. This was our campaign deliverable. It's over 4.2 trillion shillings out there at every parish, 100 million. And then there's the Invite. The Invite is also a new innovation in business. It's over 800 billion. There's Grow. Grow is specifically for women in businesses. And you know that the women are the bulk in the markets. If you go to the markets today, even those that have been built by government, women are there. You find the store, there's a lady. Either it's in fresh food or produce. So also then those which are specific to the youth, who are the majority, and the women in Uganda, YLF, YLP, and then the OEP. So this, for me, I thought that when we are talking about the budget, And Katuntu was talking about both sides. They're talking about the expenditure, we're talking about the other side of the revenue. But where is the base? Where are the people to be taxed? What are we taxing? So we have to first of all grow that base, that mass line in terms of these funds. Now these funds normally come, but the management of them to achieve the level of the economy we want is where the challenge begins. So that when you are going to tax people, you find maybe there was corruption. You've not grown the population to be able to respond to the taxes we want. Now, I want to give an example, which is also, I think, it's a good conversation. If we are going to say pay, we first of all have about 400,000 people on the government payroll. About 500,000. Now, those 400,000 are the ones, if you look at the expected revenues, those 400,000 are part of the people that are taxed, the payee. Now, today, the same government which is paying me on one hand, on the left hand, my salary, then tomorrow it will tax it. There was a debate that it had moved 40%, but now I saw Honorable saying that was a rumor. But there is a payee. And they are saying that maybe if you earn about 350,000 on salary, you are paying your wage, that one you'll not be paying
335.
300 something, you'll not be paying. You'll not be paying payee. So these are some of the proposals. But for me, I think that we need a candid decision on payee, because it distorts revenue collection. If you have given me a salary and then you are taxing it, what you are giving from the left hand and taking from the let me finish my conversation. I listened to you. So you are removing.
Moses, you forget that this now hits home directly to Lydia, because she's about to start getting the other one, you know.
So I think that I think that we raised a good policy discussion on empowering Ugandans using, my interest is in the wealth funds. These 9. If we insist and they're effective, they'll give us a base to tax in the whole country. But the moment we don't do these deliverables, we shall be milking a dying cow.
Wow. Interesting insights there.
That is my contribution to this. Because you see, the other day, the last financial year, the budget was 72 trillion. If you break it down, over 40% is repaying the debt. So we sound like we need to be candid, deliberate, and intentional about how the economy should be recovering, should be balancing, but also deliver.
The good thing
I come from Bugisu sub-region, where every budget year, I'm talking about now the issue of maybe even pay, but there's also the issue of development. There's the recurrent and then the development budget. But for us, every season, the infrastructure investment are washed away by rain. I've seen the Honorable Cheru in my area this last week, but the bridges that were done last budget, but maybe even on a loan, they are no longer there. So there are issues of climate change, the terrain, infrastructure, maintenance, but also sustainability of the infrastructure. You put in my area 40-50 billion on infrastructure, the next season the bridges are not there. The culverts have been washed away, and we are now demanding reconstruction of connecting bridges and roads, even in the city. So how do you deal with that? Maintaining infrastructure, which is very expensive, maintaining loan repayment and recovery, the interest rates. So when we come here to discuss our national budget and the budget cycle, and people like Katesha here, I think it's supposed to be a full-time job, not just the budget cycle only. We need to look at how else we can turn around the economy to grow the way we want it, because we are dealing with issues of fighting poverty and making sure that the last mile, the last person in the village has some purchasing power. The people like Katuntu here and all my colleagues, they keep talking about the poverty in our communities. We cannot explain the poverty in our communities because we need to deliver to the last man to be able to. poverty is an indignity issue. Nobody wants to go to somebody's house in the morning to say, I have a medical bill, I've lost a relative. No one wants to do that. They come to us because they're not able. They're not able. And that's why the budget should be working towards that effort to deliver, so that every Ugandan can wake up in the morning with this dignity. I mean, I can take my child to school without looking for cartoon, for exercise books or for tuition. I can do that for myself. So that's where the story starts. And for me, I thought that what would deliver Uganda was these wealth funds. But whether they are working or not, but they're in the budget. So I think the issue of monitoring and evaluation, every quarter releases must be followed to the letter, and let the leaders do their work. Then next cycle of the financial year will be able to speak with comfort where taxes will come from, because the community tax scheme are able to have purchasing power, and indirect taxes, in my humble opinion, is the way to go.
Thank you very much. And the good thing is that there was a unanimous view around the table that legislators are at the center of making these decisions.
Yeah.
You're not just a new legislator, but possibly you will be the speaker of the next parliament. So who knows?
You can say that again.
Thank you very much. I will send you an invoice if you consider that an advert. But I'll conclude with you, Mr. Bijirwa, Richard, the Secretary General of the National Organization of Trade Unions of Uganda. Away from the taxation, which I think we have exhaustively discussed, and whatever cannot be concluded in there, it's a bilateral conversation you can have with the centers of power in here, and Moses Byarhanga represents them. Fuel, like you said in your submission, has a cascading, or should I say, domino effect on every aspect of our well-being as workers and on the economy of the country. The country is facing an existential threat as a result of global happenings, the war in Iran. The Minister of Energy and Mineral Development did come out this week to, in what should have been to allay our fears, matter of fact has actually raised our curiosity and anxiety. She said we are left with about 21 days of diesel reserves, and that was about 5 days ago, meaning that now we are left with about 14 days or 16, whichever way you look at the mathematics. And less days for petrol. Never mind that she said there's some supplies on the high seas. From where you sit as a workers, a representative, what happens when eventually, like they say, our worst fears are met? What will that mean for your workers, those who have got to commute to and fro their homes, their workstations, those who have got to use fuel-powered inputs to run their businesses or to even run the work that they are doing? Just a word or two in terms of the country's preparedness for meeting such adverse circumstances.
Thank you, Simon. Definitely the implications are quite big to both the worker and the investor, because the investor uses fuel. If there is shortage of fuel, that means that the production will go down, and that means that the cost of production will also go high, and therefore it has a big implication on the workers. And in the end, you will find some investors having difficulties in even paying salaries for the workers, and the cost of operations definitely goes high. As workers, definitely this puts us on tension, and it is the means that to have all it takes, or to request the country to find a divisive means on how this can be protected. As workers, definitely any investor, the first area where he looks cutting costs when he is hardened up is laying off workers or reducing benefits. And therefore we believe we are still going to be the first victims in these circumstances.
Oh dear.
So we believe that this is a very hard time for us. We hope that it is corrected by the concerned in your future. And just before you leave, the other issue, I would like not to divert you. I want to go back to the issue we have been discussing about the trade orders. Definitely the workers are affected. And I want to appeal to government that this should be studied keenly, because you know most of these traders who are hawking around have access to PDM funds. and therefore it brings us.
But Richard, sorry, it's, Richard, let me interject here and ask.
Thank you.
You as Richard Bigirwa, forget about the titles you hold and all that, just the way you are. When you go to downtown Kampala, a capital city, right? And you see the mosaic of what there was.
I was just coming.
No, let me just. I want you to speak as a human that works in, and then compare to Barcelona, where you normally go to attend your high-level meetings of International Organization of Trade Unions. Compare with London, compare with Beijing, and tell me that when you go to those countries and you come back to Kampala, you want to sit on a radio station Capital and say that we should leave that disorganization in our city, or in the name of saying that everybody should come.
Nobody would love to have that disorganization downtown.
Thank you very much.
But what we are saying, let's be orderly when we are doing all this. As a workers' representative, I have an obligation to ensure that when workers are leaving the streets, where do they go? We should have plan for them.
Where were you to bring when they were coming to the streets? Where were they coming from? Did you organize them to come to the streets?
How did they come? Where were the enforcers?
No, that's the thing.
Where were the enforcers? That's the question. So I'm not against removal of hawkers from the streets, but my concern is let's find them a solution. Where do we put them? They have access to PDM money. How are they going to pay if they don't continue with the operation? That is my concern.
I would sometimes want that when we come here next time, Richard, you give me some, and not anecdotal thing, or maybe they access PDM, maybe that, maybe the other. Come and hit me with the figures. The same way John comes here and hits at me with figures. Of course, many of them are subject to verification, but at least he makes the attempt at hitting us with figures.
What I want to emphasize, we all want to go to be in
John here will come and hit you with statistics, but anyway, turning over to you, I have heard you, and that's a very good submission. I believe that Moses has heard that if we're going to move people off the streets, then we should have at least prepared for them places to go to. I know that there is a market, for example, in Busega that has not been occupied because your people prefer to put the business right in front of others in the middle of the road.
Which
is wrong. Moses,
which is wrong.
You never tell them that when you come to the radio station. What is wrong is what government has done to organize them. What is not wrong is their bad manners of putting business in the middle of the road.
Manners are bad, but by the time they came on the streets, we should have had an action taken earlier, other than waiting for 1,001 comes, the second one, we are watching, one kiosk is erected, we watch the second one until they come in the thousands, and then we start evicting.
John Warukembe is talking about your people, the small and medium enterprises.
Go back to the budget again. Even what Mr. Bigirwa is saying is correct, but then you need the money to settle them.
Where do we get that money?
Where do you get that money?
The question still comes up. John.
Whatever you do, you need the money.
Yeah. So chicken and egg here has now it has become standard. We first have the egg, then the chicken can come. John.
Yes, you want me to comment on the eviction?
No. We are taking a two-detable conclusion of our conversation. We've discussed heavily around the tax proposals, but now we are looking at the domino effect of what we see as an existential threat coming in from the Iran situation, where now fuel prices have globally skyrocketed. And in Uganda, our minister came to tell us that we have about 21 days left of diesel, and that was about 5 days ago. The situation could be that now we are almost left with single-digit days, and yet we don't see, even though they promised that there is supply on the high seas.
We have those left of diesel or
and
in our reserves, strategic reserves. So those are different things. Yes.
You will come to that, Honorable Katuntu. For me, this is how I got it. You will correct me when your turn comes. But
okay,
so senior presidential advisor.
Okay, so that's
more political than fuel.
Okay.
The situation in the Middle East is concerning. As you know, Brent crude is now above $100 per barrel. West Texas version is about 99. So, in effect, we are seeing very increased prices for petroleum products. Southeast Asia has been affected the most because for them, 90% of their supply comes through this route.
The Strait of
The
Hormuz.
Philippines has declared a national emergency. Indonesia is in trouble. Thailand is in trouble. So it's something that has affected them more than the other countries. For the rest of us in Africa, we've not been hit as much as them, but we will still be hit because we also source a substantial amount of our petroleum products from that region. Uganda is a net importer of petroleum products, so that shock will hit us. We have the national buffers, but as the minister said, we only have a few days left, so we need to start rationing, because Australia is also doing the same, and other countries. So for Uganda, we're also seeing that the Ugandan shilling is starting to weaken because some of these portfolio investors in such times choose to pull back their money, and also more of our foreign currency is now used to import things. So, and also the general negative sentiment in the not just locally but internationally means that this is a difficult time. That's why I'm very surprised that government brought an 84 trillion budget at this time, because if you have a
when
problem,
the proposals were being today, they hadn't really kicked off.
No, because I'm surprised, because it's a difficult kind of situation. So you want to come up with a frugal. If the head of the home has been dismissed from a job, you can't say you are now bringing a wedding budget of 100 million.
Not a wedding. There's an anniversary celebration.
Has already had meetings. The wedding is what do you do?
You just proceed. Okay. Anyway, the issue is that it's a tough period. I'm glad that Uganda made some strategic, and this is something we need to appreciate. The fact that Uganda set up the National Oil Company, the fact that we had functional petroleum reserves. We need to appreciate decision makers. I know Ugandans want to complain left, right, and center, but I remember during the 2008 post-election violence in Kenya, we had no reserves. They were completely empty. So the fact that we even know, because at that time we didn't even know for how much longer would we go, but now we know couple of days, so but in the meantime we've been assured that we'll be able to source from other locations. So as for now, I think our concern should be around the performance of the shilling, inflation, and all these other things that are imported because of the state of the global macro economy.
I'll turn very quickly to you, Mr. Byarhanga, and as if to join to what Mr. Orugembe is saying, but also to firmly answer the question that Abdu keeps asking. Yes, the government deserves the kudos for ensuring that you come in at the top of the management and regulation of the oil spectrum, because previously it was left to like any other industry, always private sector led, and there was no regulation, there was no cohesion. But now at least we know that we can comfortably listen to a government that is in charge of this sector. The thing is, should we worry even more, Moses? Should we worry that even our shilling continues to take a nosedive against the dollar in light of this? But also without really drawing you into many other things, but there are concerns with regard to this war, Uganda's foreign policy relations in relation to all this. There's quite a lot of cloudy, fizzy, shadowy conversations going on. You may just need to just straighten a few things here and there.
Well, the war is affecting the entire world. Nobody is escaped. So in terms of the strength of the shilling, in terms of the cost of fuel, everybody who is watching international news has seen the rise in the international oil prices. So those are expected to spill over everybody using fuel in different ways. However, we don't know how long the war will continue beyond. From what we are watching, maybe it shouldn't take so much longer, because we hear negotiations are going on. But that's beyond us. We are watching, and we hope it ends well. However, in terms of fuel, I just got a briefing yesterday and this morning from the Ministry of Energy. The internal reserves we have and what has already been purchased, which is over on the seas but outside the strait, so it's not affected by what is happening there.
Well, the strait is behind it already.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have an assurance that we have fuel which can take us for the next 3 months.
Oh.
Yeah, but that still depends on how long the war will take. So I got that briefing yesterday from the ministry when I knew we are going to have this topic. But in terms of pricing, of course, as Mr. Walugembe was saying and others, that we buy fuel in dollars. So that is likely to affect the pricing of how much we pay on the pump. At least we are assured we have enough stocks which can last us up to 3 months. We use about 8 million liters of fuel monthly. That is fuel, petrol and diesel. And this is a big rise. I remember around 2021, after COVID, we are using about 1.6 million liters per month. We're now using 8 million liters per month. So you can see how when people say the economy is growing, another thing is where. Then you see, but
those who are spending more on diesel running their generators in the absence of hydropower
go to one on top of the other, or the other people are buying cars and the fuel is being used by those people. Anyway, that shows you in only 5 years, about 5 years, your fuel consumption internally has gone up almost almost 5 times, from 1.6 million liters a month to 8 million liters. But the assurance that what we have internally and within the seas, as the minister said, can last us for the next 3 months. That's a good assurance. But on the pricing, it will change according to the circumstances of the day, depending on the dollar rate. You can't fix it. And neither, you remember during COVID, some of the countries in the region subsidized the fuel. In Uganda, we said, no, we can't do that, to take that policy. And those who subsidized the fuel burnt their fingers. One country I know of ended up paying about $2.5 billion just to pay the fuel companies. And up to now, it has affected the GDP debt ratio, which is slightly above 70%. So we cannot promise that we are going to subsidize or fuel. It will be according to market forces. At least we shall have enough stocks to last us for that period.
Tremendous, Moses. Now, in exactly half the hour, let's take a short break. When we return, we'll continue with our two-detable conversation around the conclusion of these conversations that we started off today. It's the Capital Gang. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's the Capital Gang. My name is Simon Kasiate, standing in for the perennial host of the program. I love to call him that, Oscar Semoya Msoke, who is unable to be with us today, but he certainly shall return at the next week. Now we are going through the last 30 minutes of the program, where we do a two-detable conclusion of the conversations that we have had. And we just heard from Mr. Bijirwa Richard, who's the Secretary General of the National Organization of Trade Unions of Uganda. We did hear from Mr. John Walugembe, the man whose other name is Small Medium Enterprises in Uganda. That one he has pardon and by size is small medium. Let me not bastardize this conversation further. I could otherwise have asked what body part are you looking at. But anyway, and then we've also heard from Mr. Moses Yarahanga, the Senior Presidential Advisor on Political Matters. He says political means everything. So including fuel, including everything in between. And now let me turn my guns to the Honorable Abdu Katuntu, a regular panelist in the program, to give him his 5 minutes so that he can pass on the baton to Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, who will then pass it on to Honorable Katesh to conclude further. Honorable Katuntu.
Yes.
Yes, wait a minute, you logged off?
Well, I thought maybe I should.
Okay. Honorable Katuntu, of course, you like we were just concluding the issue around our ability to have reserves, our ability to allay the worries of Ugandans that in spite of the war that's affecting fuel prices across the world, that's of course an existential threat everywhere you look at it. And those who even read further would even say a nuclear threat if we continue like this. Where are we? How do we stand? The preparedness and everything in between.
First of all, if there is any business in Parliament which I really address my mind to in detail, is this oil and gas sector in this country. You remember many years ago when some of us thought that things were not moving correctly, we opened up a debate. I led a team of my colleagues and we opened up this debate of the sector. It led eventually to the enactment of 3 legislations, and including the creation of UNOC.
Yes.
I mean, that is the best I could have contributed to my country. Because you can see now that Uganda is supposed to be an oil-producing country. If we were producing, if our oil was already out, and we also had a refinery, maybe we would have been hit less by this crisis.
Would we?
Now, we are still stuck as a net importer of oil and energy products, and the crisis in the Middle East is affecting us directly. We have no choice. It goes back to the debate we had at that time, one of the issues, whether we needed a refiner or not. There was a lot of resistance, especially from the partners who are coming in to invest. They thought we didn't need a refiner at all. And they made the president, because the president could see we needed one, and he was one of the people who publicly came out to the need for a refinery, but then they made him, abandon that one. Then eventually I said, okay, we go for a smaller refinery, but even then the smaller refinery went for, we could have got an investor who has challenges already. I don't know whether I am being a whistleblower on this one, but now that project may not take off. Of refinery, we have to go back again to the drawing board, because I've done a lot of research about this. So, yes, we have this crisis. Are we ready for it? And people who manage this country, sometimes you need to be strategic, because including Amin, at that time he knew we needed these reserves. So that's how he eventually built that infrastructure which we have in Jinja. But it is a small one. I think it's around 30 million liters. It's not big. We now have another project in Impeach. I don't know, it's called Kampala something, but it's quite big. Where
Surubani they call it, something like that.
Something like that. Because you see, according to the International Energy Agency, a landlocked country like us, the ideal should be having strategic reserves for 90 days. That should be the ideal. Today, as we talk now, we are talking about 21 days, 26 days, and so on. So we need to have that capacity in case there is a crisis, and we have resources that can take us for 33 months. So 3 months, 90 days. And that helps. Maybe it is assumed you pray that the crisis ends. Moses is saying, we hope the war will be over. They are saying they are talking. Then the other group say we are not talking. So you don't know who to believe. So we need to be very, very careful as a country and take very hard decisions. One, we need to start thinking about the option B. How do we utilize the fuel which we have to take us for a slightly longer period? Maybe at an individual level, if Moses drives a car, his wife a car, his daughter a car, his son a car, his house girl a car, and all of them 5 cars move out of the compound at the same time. You may need to, maybe you and your wife, the kids can, or you drop the children and that sort of thing. But eventually, Ugandans are not used to that sort of self-regulation. You must come in and do the real laws and regulate and so on. So, in case this war goes beyond what we are thinking, what do? We could have a real crisis. The countries that have been hit, World Bank is talking about, they trouble. First of all, they consume too much fuel, and most of it comes through that Strait of Hormuz. So they really got disruptions, and the war took literally everybody by surprise. Nobody expected this war, because you see, people were on the table discussing this, negotiating. Then one man said, "No, now I will bomb you," and he went and started bombing. So it led even now to the collapse of the biggest, global alliance, both political and military, the NATO. It is really on the descent, because there is bad blood between the US and Europe. For the first time that Europe will tell US, this is your war, please handle it. It is unprecedented. And then when you hear what is coming out of Washington about, these capitals and so on, you're like, is this the Western world we knew? So this is the problem of this war. The global solution to the challenge is not there. It is zero. The Security Council, dead and buried. Dead and buried completely.
Like
Why?
it actually never existed.
No, it did at some point, especially after the World War. And it was like, we don't need another war. Now, the permanent members of the Security Council,
who is the president of the Security Council again?
Moscow and Washington are the ones in this vicious war.
You want to be reminded of who the president of the Security Council is?
Oh, yes, I don't want. Yes, and they have been, and Uganda has been privileged to produce the president of the Security Council, I think twice. Twice. We've had Uganda heading that council as chairperson.
Well, Somalia,
the guy from Muchuni.
Somalia is current chair.
Yes. So that is dead. So now Europe has gone into an arms race, because they think their biggest partner is now on his own. Will that help us to sort out this war soonest, such that the situation returns to normalcy? Maybe not. So, Moses, as you pick your pen to write this memorandum to His Excellency, the President, or other people, just keep in mind that we could be in real trouble, and all options should be open. All options should be open. How do we manage the small resources we have? Otherwise, even the figures we are proud of having too many borders and therefore consuming too much fuel, and that's development. You'll think about it. The country needs a real plan. South Africa is already in trouble, actually, on the continent. And I really don't know whether there's debate about this in cabinet, in Parliament where I sit. We've not had that debate, but maybe one committee should be able to sit and start thinking about how do we get voices of the people heard on this issue. And the people are not Simon Kasiati.
Oh, the people. Okay, fine. Lydia Wanyoto, you've heard carefully what Senior Abdul Katuntu has said around this issue. I think it's only fair that I invite you to come and wait. Of course, we're receiving quite a bit of feedback, gangsters, or off our social media handles. And Moses, someone that has debunked your assertion that now we are spending about 8 million liters of fuel. They say that the number is grossly exaggerated, although they do not offer a counter number to that effect. So I have challenged them to say, look, when you debunk with the facts and figures. But I'm still monitoring as the conversations go on.
As the figures come.
As the figures come. And I also then subject them to a verification and fact check.
You see, my opinion that you should have always a standby think tank or team of people that help the country to manage anticipated crises or even the crisis in terms of time. Now we're talking about 21 days, 30 days, but we should be able to have projections. Even what you don't foresee, you plan. Because that's how we'll be able to stabilize, but also predict the survival of Uganda amid so many challenges, but also contradictions, at least in terms of the economy, but also survival. And that's why you have such identified priorities and areas like vital installations. We cannot give anything to chance. We need fuel. It's such a vital infrastructure of our economy, but also we have what we call the essentials. Remember, during COVID, the Katuntus were debating whether Parliament was an essential or not because there was lockdown. So we need to find out, and
we never debated. We are certain.
It was clear they are essential.
It was even on the committee that led the committee that went around during those COVID days to. But the issue is, I'm trying to make a point, is that we should not be in a situation where we are like ambushed. We should be alert. So if the issue is Uganda being land connected, or people like calling it landlocked, what are the challenges that come with such a conflict out there that is disruptive, very disruptive in many ways? It has disrupted the world order. But also, I don't know whether our colleagues have realized that this war is going to disrupt our budget income because we have foreign remittances. These people they are being evacuated back home. You see how much revenue comes from our people working abroad, and many of them working in that area of UAE.
Nkuba is almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
Annually.
So how are you going to balance our budget? So this is it's not about fuel only. We should also talk about the issue of the disruption, the world order. So I want to agree that even this budget cycle it has this problem like we had during COVID, that there are external factors that are going to affect our budget normancy. And I've just given an example of remittances. Normally when they are balancing, they say there will be so much money coming from the diaspora. That money is going to be disrupted. It was $1 billion or something like that, coming home from all people that are working abroad. Then there are those that are doing business also. Airports, international business decisions have closed. They closed. So you find that someone who was having a business, they have their letters of credit, doing business, they have been grounded. They are not moving. So these are serious matters that to say oil reserves is a small story. It should be bigger than just monitoring how much fuel we have in the country. It's bigger than that, and we need think tankers or big people, economists, thinkers, to say this is the direction the country will be, and these are the challenges anticipated because of this war. We discussed the issue of Ukraine and Russia, and people are saying, we no longer receive wheat because of
Ukraine.
People said, I'll go and eat cassava. So what are the alternatives to fuel? If cassava was replacing bread and
replacing chapati.
And chapati from Busoga. So these are, you see, in during COVID we had a team of people, was it called a committee, that kept monitoring and informing the country on the implications of COVID and lockdown. And that was able to build up to how we were surviving. It should be the same now. We should have a committee that is monitoring and doing modeling and giving projections. If this war takes 2 months, this is what will happen to Uganda in terms of remittances, in terms of business, in terms of the fuel, in terms of vital installations of our country, in terms of security, in terms of stability. We need to know 2 months from now, and even how it will affect the budget. Parliament of Uganda, you are in the middle of working on our budget. we want to know the projections of how our budget will survive under the circumstances. You give us that addendum or a preamble to say, yes, we are passing by, but these are the circumstances. But this should be informed by researchers or technical people, because it's not a lens for a layman or a politician. Somebody must think through this and give the scenarios. Do the moduling, actually. We need to do the moduling in terms of the economy, in terms of security, in terms of the stability of the country, and give the projections like in the next 5 years. Fortunately, we are ending.
I see Moses taking notes, and I believe that, so that technically he does what you are saying.
So that this informs
government interventions.
The government interventions, but also expectations. We don't want to move into a dark hole when actually we have minds and skills and experience around us. Say in the next 5 years or in the next 3 years, if the situation continues like this, these are the likely. Then you give us a map on the wall in terms of the economy, in terms of security, the stability of the country, the foreign policy. Our foreign policy is important.
Someone has just
foreign policy. How does that inform the foreign policy of Uganda? Some feedback for you,
Honorable Onyot. Someone just wrote here and said, Lydia is sounding like she has just arrived into this place called Uganda. Lydia, do you know a time when such serious modeling was done? Perhaps it's going to happen when you, now that you're a member of parliament, to be speaker of parliament, then perhaps those conversations can take center. But as it is now,
we owe duty to our country. We cannot always think in the past. When you are given a breath to wake up and come here, we think. And the purpose of this debate is to open our eyes and to do more. You know, we were sleeping. Uganda is a beautiful country, but then you can be sure to eat. If I didn't have lunch, I would call Bijira here. And the wife is my friend. She's a member of parliament. So I would call them and say, I'm coming for lunch. And I would be finding lunch there. There are countries where you cannot find lunch, including our neighbors
talking
here.
About lunch, we're about to go for our lunch break, but I think you're taking up the time that our Honorable Katesh should be coming in.
So the point I'm trying to raise is that the challenges now of the world disorder. We were sleeping because we thought the UN Security Council was more organized than us. The big five would be mindful of humanity. Now they are not. So we must raise to the occasion and do modeling and secure our country.
Tremendous.
Yes.
Honorable Katesh Dixon, your final remarks. I mean, you are an economist par excellence. You have worked at the Revenue Authority. You are now a member of parliament. The country faces an existential threat. There is no thought processing to the extent to which Honorable Onyoto is talking about. What makes it your concluding remarks?
First of all, I think I just want to remind listeners that in November 2023, I think on 15th of November, I penned a very long opinion on Twitter. We were processing the petroleum supply bill. Honorable Abdul here, I know we debated it, and the president signed on 23rd of November. When that bill came to parliament, I saw the debate, especially from some of our colleagues in opposition, the direction that there was a lot of condemnation on government when without people understanding and appreciating why the bill was being brought. And I really commend His Excellency the President I think this bill, the introduction of this bill, the government was looking far than many people were perhaps
able to imagine. Because
if we had not passed that petroleum supply bill, right now the discussion would be different. Because in that bill, we empowered UNOC to be able to guarantee the supply chain, to increase the stock holding levels, and also
I can give you some information.
And also, yes,
we sat for like 3 nights.
3 nights, yes.
3 nights.
And
if 1
yes.
2 a.m. to make sure that
the bill is
sort
passed.
Out right.
And personally, I was even tasked by the speaker. I had to engage some of the members of parliament in a small workshop to just try and guide on how the importance of this bill. The empowerment of UNOC is why our prices are still stable now. Because as we speak now, if you talk to the Minister of Energy, and Moses has talked about it, there is no panic. I know that there is a ship which is offroading with 80,000 metric tons, another one on high seas. If UNOC was not in charge, some of these players now would be saying, would be saying now the fuel is high, we have incurred this and this. So Ugandans should be thankful that the president had the foresight, and Parliament, those who supported the bill. And I think now this is a lesson for some of our colleagues in Parliament. We need to, even if you are opposing government, sometimes give government the benefit of doubt. Try to understand the intention before you come to oppose everything that comes. So I want to commend government.
You also take the lesson to say, don't take it for granted that everyone is going to support you, whatever you come up with. You may have to put in a little more effort to convince those on the other side of the aisle to believe in your vision.
People like Katuntu and myself and a few others, we had to explain. It took us 3 days to explain to the members.
Katuntu was on your side of the aisle?
Of course.
Remind us.
Actually, I chaired some of those meetings.
Yeah. So, for me, there is nothing Uganda can do about the global dynamics that are happening in the Middle East. When these people start talking, the situation will calm down and things will stabilize. But the listeners should know that I do not think this situation is comparable to what we went through in COVID. So I believe that we are resilient enough to be able to go through this situation. Obviously, like someone mentioned, if you have 3 cars and you have been going out with the 3 cars, it's time for you to also do some
tightening of the belt.
Yes, but I do not think that. I think that the supply chain is not yet disrupted to the extent that we should be worried. The UNOC, we empowered it, we gave them the budget. They have been able to stock sufficiently, but also take charge. And therefore, as we pray that peace comes back in the Middle East, we hope that we will survive through this.
Thank you very much. And now, finally, Mr. Richard Bijirwa, you step in the shoes of a man who had been perennially at the National Organization of the Trade Unions, to the extent that when I saw your designation, yes, I know, when I saw your designation, I said, but this job belongs to someone else that I have known for donkey's years. And so it means that even in terms of your brand and disposition and the fire spitting position that this Secretary Generalship requires of you, you may need to give confidence to the workers that now what you have, the person that you are is one that's going to really speak truth to power, and for the most part negotiate with the heels dug in so deep for the benefit of the workers. We will conclude by asking you to make your concluding remarks, whichever way you want to choose to take them. I don't want to disrupt you or guide you and take you the gangster style. Since you are a guest, we'll give you that latitude. Mr. Bijirwa.
Thank you, Simon. In all this discussion, as colleagues said, we need to appreciate at times where good is done. I would like to appreciate the government and the parliament and the Ministry of Finance for the proposals so far which are on the table, especially on pay-as-you-earn threshold, though as I pointed out, we would have loved more. Secondly, I would also like to appreciate on the improvement of pay, on the teachers, arts teachers, of the 25% to the arts teachers. That is a credit, and we believe more will be improved. And also, definitely, we are concerned about the laws in force, especially the amendment of the Employment Act, which is still at large, lying in Parliament. And our key concern, we did appoint it to the President that we are not comfortable with the law concerning casualization, where many workers are casuals, and that also leads to the loss of government payee. We are losing a lot because we have many casuals. You will find an IT expert is a casual worker. That means we would have paid some pay-as-you-earn to the government, and that is a loss. So, Mr. Katuntu, as you are finding out how do we raise revenue, I'm now telling you that let us look at the Employment Act and we strengthen both the enforcement and the law so that we can get more funds from the pay as you earn.
The whole
Also,
interview.
I would like also to our concern is obviously the levels of migrant workers. I know many do not believe in it. With this war in Iran, definitely the rates have gone down, the people going abroad, and therefore it will affect remittances and affect the country at large, because now these workers, when they remit, this money comes in to help us Ugandans here, and therefore it is a big loss. And I would like to conclude by saying that you said as the Secretary General of the Center, I would like to assure the country that the center is on ground, and as a result we have even launched a toll-free call center to ensure we continue getting feedback from all over the country, including the migrant workers.
Wow.
The number is 800-111-445. So you can call the National Center at any time, and we are able to get back to you, even especially the migrant workers and within the country. So we are on move, and we believe that we should be able to cooperate with government. Our appeal to the government is that let's work closely together, and the process of minimum wage is ongoing. After meeting with the head of state, he did agree that we start on the sectoral minimum wage, and we believe this should be able to leverage on the workers who are suffering in the country. Thank you.
As they say, in you we trust. I want to pay special thanks to Star Cafe, who continue every Saturday to provide us with great, deeply well-roasted Ugandan coffee. Want in a very special way to thank Mega Yogurt, or from our good friends of Mega Industries. Is it Industries? I'll be corrected. But yes, they provide us with Mega Yogurt. It's always fresh, beautiful, in different flavors. I had myself a whole half liter of strawberry yogurt after a 22-kilometer run this morning. I feel rejuvenated, and I believe I can comfortably prescribe the same for Abdul Katut, who has not run in 200 years. Katesh, who's going for a game of golf, and my friend John Walugembe, who is going to visit other places of the country. I also want to say that Capital FM continues to provide you with the best of programming. Right about now, those of you who are dreadlocked or non-dreadlocked rasters like myself, it's now time for Rough Cuts with DJ Nyowe. And yes, we shall meet same place, same time next week with other in-depth conversations, although then we will be in the real center of the Holy Week. It will be Easter Saturday, and from me, a happy Easter to all of you. Abdu did not invite me for Eid. You did not know that a week after that I will have Easter. I am going to return this favor. So so now you know what I'm going to do for my Easter. Have a lovely weekend, folks.